Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Point Forward podcast, Milwaukee Bucks chatter from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. My name is JR Radcliffe. On the other line is Jim Owczarski, Bucks beat reporter for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Don't boo him. Don't boo him. You never know what's going to happen. Jim, we got to talk about, we're going to start there. We're going to start with Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks have been bad. They did what I said they would do. They split a couple games in Los Angeles, and that was great. That was fine. I think that's acceptable. I would think most people feel the same way. And then they lost to Denver without Nikola Jokic and many other people. And then they got blown out at home, blown out by the Minnesota Timberwolves without Anthony Edwards and without Rudy Gobert for good measure. So that's really bad. And included in that game against the Timberwolves, fans started booing. They got a little frustrated at Pfizer Forum. And then Giannis booed them back after a play underneath the basket where he expressed his displeasure with the Milwaukee Bucks fans. Lori Nickel was there. She wrote about it. It's all up at jsonline.com. He was not being sarcastic. He spoke about it after the game, kind of expressed his frustration. So Jim, we'll start there. And I just off the top, your thoughts on that incident. What does it mean? Like, Giannis is an emotional guy. This isn't something that I think is beyond the pale for him, but this is unusual. We haven't seen this kind of interaction with the fan base. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's unusual. The easiest comp was a couple of years ago in a January blowout to Utah, right before Adrian Griffin was fired. Fans booed a blowout loss. That was, I think, when the Bucks were 10, 11 games over 500, though. And so Giannis was like, yeah, never heard that. And he kind of smiled and said, yeah, I booed myself, on the bench. Obviously, this was far different reaction. I think it was just a guy just feeling it, being on the road, JR, like he's really, really frustrated with his teammates, with the way they're playing, with the mounting losses. And then to come home and, hear that. I mean, at least someone took a personal, JR. Like, we could argue maybe that's been part of the problem with this team. Since he's come back, he's like, does anyone realize, like, we're 11th in the East? If we don't turn this around, like, we're not in it at all. We're playing, playing selfish basketball and not moving the right way. Like, I think also post-game, Jerry said, I don't know, maybe guys aren't listening to me because I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. So it sounds like a guy who's just, invested and bothered by everything. And when that happens, so yeah, and he comes out and says what he said, and it can definitely be interpreted as, him against the fans or whatever it is. And obviously, I'm sure, Jerry, you've heard it. I've heard fans like, of course we're not booing Giannis. We're booing Doc Rivers and losing by 30. But he's part of the team. He's part of it. And he has yet to get to the point where he's going to publicly call for a new coach. He has called out his teammates a ton, so I don't really know what else he could do with that. So I think he was just, all right, well, I need to sort of lash out. I'm feeling this kind of way. And the fans booed him. So he decided, you're against me? Okay, well, I'm against you right now. And that is how he's wired. I don't think in terms of reading anything into it, I don't know. I don't, it was emotional. You're right. I mean, the hard part is the next time the Bucks fans will see them, it'll be another 8 days. And they'll probably get pounded by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we're probably going to hear it again. And it's just where it's at. Unless something changes, and I don't see what's going to change materially in the next 7 days. I mean, maybe a trade that gets the fan base kind of fired up in an excited way. So even if they lose to the Thunder, there's still this like buzz of we're going to turn it around. And there's this, whatever, maybe a coaching change would, I'm guessing honestly, JR, like I'm sure if Darvin Ham was introduced as the Bucks head coach against the Thunder, that would go a long way in easing fans, angst. But it feels like none of that's going to happen in the next week. So, probably going to get booed again. And we'll see how Giannis reacts then as well.
Yeah, booing's always a tricky thing. Like it occurred to me watching actually Hard Knocks, watching your Philadelphia Eagles on this episode of Hard Knocks, and how they put in all the work. You see all the background, you see all of the like meetings and the hustle and the desire and the drive, and then they don't play well and they get booed, and it's like, it's the playoffs. I know it's Philadelphia, but like they won the division. They aren't a superpower. They won the Super Bowl last year though. So what more do you want? And I mean, obviously Bucks fans haven't seen this in a long time. They haven't seen this in years, where this team is fighting through everything. And quite honestly, I think at some point this week, I sort of accepted they're not going to go out and win 7 in a row. They're not going to suddenly go from this team that is below 500 and all of a sudden a playoff team, a firm playoff team. That's just not going to happen. They could still be a playoff team, but it's going to take a lot more than what we've seen. There's a radio host in Milwaukee, Jim, who had a line that really sticks with me a long time ago. It was actually, I think it was about Michael Redd. It's like the best player on a bad team is always blamed for not being better. And I think that is possible. I agree with you that I don't think fans, when they boo, are booing Giannis. The numbers are still there. The performances are often still there. But I wonder if you've seen anything that suggests to you that he is either in a little bit of decline. We're across the 30-year-old threshold. I don't think the rest of the league thinks he's in decline. He is the leader in the All-Star voting, so the fan bases around the league don't think he's in decline. But either that, or you're seeing the frustration play out on the floor in any way. If you're seeing maybe the first tendrils of signs that, Giannis too could pick it up. I even like saying that out loud even makes me feel weird, because like Giannis is like the sun and the stars for this organization, and he has to be on the floor for them to be good. He is sensational. But do you sense anything that sort of indicates a direction that might be adding to his frustration?
No, not with play, JR. I think if you're going to talk about fans booing and anything to do with Giannis, I mean, I think there is a little bit of fatigue over the, well, will he, won't he, be it externally motivated, be it, Giannis is always adding qualifiers to his wanting to stay, but it's like, well, but if, they don't want me, or, well, if things change, or,
that is not a man who can just close the door completely.
No,
there's always like 2 words at the end that sort of modify everything.
And so I don't think if there's fan angst over Giannis or about him, it has nothing to do with his play. Because honestly, JR, if their record was inverse, he'd be, now that Joker's out, he'd probably be the number 1 MVP candidate. Like
I agree.
The numbers are very Joker-ish from like the first MVP or second one, I forget, where, like the Nuggets were like a 6th seed or 5th seed. Because like Giannis is on off numbers, like kind of all those analytics that people seem to love are insane. They're just not winning. And, I think that would be it. But no, I think in that kind of moment where you're down by 30 to a team that doesn't have Anthony Edwards or Rudy Gobert, even that's not coming out. Like that's like a reader email or snail mail. Yes, I still get those. Shouts out to you all for writing like handwritten letters.
Yeah, I did not know that. You get handwritten mail at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I don't think I've gotten a letter in years.
It's few and far between. I actually have one I still carry around from a reader about a story I wrote when I was on the Packers beat.
Wow,
really cool. But
shouts to you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So I think if there's any fan frustration, it's over that. But in that moment, JR, that is a visceral thing. And we're down by 30. We haven't seen this team in 12 days. The Packers just lost to the Bears. This is our first outlet, right? Like, I think all of that was happening at Pfizer Forum.
Totally right. You're totally right. Yes.
Which, of course, like, I don't think Giannis would understand or care. And so he took it personally, and but no, I don't think this has anything to do with his play. I mean, even if honestly, JR, like they were to lift the minute restriction and he could go to 35, like their issue is still the 13 minutes he doesn't play. Like that hasn't been fixed, and so maybe instead of games like that where they're down 20, they're down 15, or I think they were getting booed no matter what in that instance in that game, JR. It was just, I think, a culmination of a lot of stuff plus how bad they were playing.
On the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel website, on as we record this on Thursday, there was an interesting story that kind of pulled everybody in the newsroom, in the sports department, making predictions for 2026, and usually related to their specific beat. And you said something that you've said before. You've said multiple times that you think Giannis, not only is he going to be here, he's going to sign the extension this offseason to remain here for a long period of time. One more extension to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. I admit that it surprises me. I mean, it surprises me that he would want to do that right now. And I get that one rough stretch, which is still what we're talking about. We're talking about a bad half season at this point. That's not enough, I would say, to say tear it all down. Your model was wrong. I mean, it quite simply kind of looks like they just didn't have the chemistry for this season, and maybe they still scratch into the playoffs, but like they can easily rebuild this right again around Giannis and figure out how to win basketball games again. And we'll talk about the trade deadline in a minute. But I just want to hear you explain that one more time, like why you think and this is just a prediction, who knows what happens, but why do you think that is the case? Why do you feel strongly that Giannis will in fact sign another extension here?
Yeah, I think because I haven't seen anything. I mean, there was a deadline on that thing, so it was. But I haven't seen anything from ownership or John Horst that leads me to believe they want anything other than continuing to try to win around him. And yeah, like it's not going well this season. This is the first year since in 9. This is the first year in 9, JR, that this is like going sideways for them. And that's pretty remarkable, all things considered. Like,
it is.
Teams don't hang around like that. And yeah, we could talk about the end result of the last 3 years, of which Giannis has contributed with his injuries, right? But this is the first year since Jason Kidd's final season that this is a wayward regular season team. Now, granted, Giannis is 31 now and not 24, 23. Like, that's a big difference. His clock is running much, much faster, right? His patience, like, if he was 25, I think, there's none of this is happening, right? In terms of the outside noise, because it's all about growth and whatever. So I understand that's the tension with this. But again, I just haven't seen or heard anything from ownership that would indicate this is acceptable, like a long-term plan. Now, we could argue about Doc Rivers, but, I guess I just feel like some sort of roster move will continue to happen. And then we'll get to October and Giannis will hem and haw maybe a little bit and finally do the thing. I'm not saying he wasn't a prediction for the end of his career, because I think that's still a really unique circumstance to go 20 years with one team, but or thereabout. So maybe there is a trade down the line, but I just think the extension happens. He's under contract for one more year as well, JR. Like, if he were to, if his agents were to ask for him to be traded, I still don't know. I don't know for sure that the Bucks would even do that. Just because you want to leave doesn't mean they're going to send him, So even in the most like tumultuous of circumstances here over the offseason, JR, who's to say that happens? And I do think the extension happens just because it's bird in hand, it's money in hand. And in all reality, JR, like if he does want to get traded, part of the leverage games and all this is that extension. Giannis's leverage is trade me to team ABC or team A, because if not, I'm not signing the extension. And then the Bucks aren't going to be able to get what they want because he doesn't have the extension. So maybe it's in both of their best interests that he's under contract. And, everybody can kind of get what they want after that. So, but yeah, but that's like that's the I guess the end of the thing, part of the prediction. But I just feel like as we record this, when I wrote that, it feels like the Bucks are still going to try to do the thing around him while he's in his prime. And that's over the next handful of years. And, he's really mad right now, JR, but like he has proven if the team proves to him that they're going to do their best to compete and he's on board with it, he'll be on board. And I guess I'm going to go with the history of that as opposed to, a diversion onto a new path.
All right, well, let's talk about that. What the team can do to help this team win. Oh, they need to remodel some things. I don't know if that's doable at this trade deadline. I also know the Bucks are probably going to try. You said that last week on our podcast, last time we talked. They're going to try to get better. They are going to look for something here at the trade deadline. You threw out some names at JS Online on the trade tracker of rumors and whatnot, and who knows if there's any substance whatsoever. But the name John Morant sure is eye-catching. A lot of baggage there. The Bucks took on a player I don't want to compare the situations, but like they've shown they will take on players who have some baggage. Kevin Porter was an interesting situation when they brought him in, and it seems to have worked out great, at least to this point. I don't know if the Bucks would realistically, like if there's a fit even on the floor necessarily, but that's a question I pose to you. Like who would be out there that is both realistic that they still have the assets to trade for and can actually help this team go from, at the very least, re-energize it a little bit, if not transform it into a winning basketball team, which, again, I'm not sure that move is out there, but maybe it gives just enough life that they can get in the play-in game and get hot.
Yeah, so there is interest in John Morant. Again, interest is always a fun word this time of year because am I interested in playing golf at, Aaron Hills next week? Yeah, of course I'm interested.
I'm interested. Let's go. You and I, we can, you know what we need to do, Jim, you know what we need to do? You reach out to those people who are writing you handwritten notes, because those people, I have a feeling, are supportive of you. And I think maybe we could fundraise a little bit. We can GoFundMe and the two of us can play around at Aaron Hills. I'm excited about this. Let's go.
So I'm not, I wouldn't have written it if it wasn't something there. Zach LaVine, I think, has been pretty widely known in league circles dating back to last year's trade deadline. Obviously, as we record this, I was on a call before I picked up with you. They are poking around, and in terms of what's realistic, that's hard to say because, teams are going to believe the Bucks are desperate because of this Giannis stuff and really want that 2031 draft pick. The Bucks arguably can say, we're not desperate. Like, yes, they lost these last two games, but when Giannis plays, we're an above 500 team. Like, we're showing flashes of getting, but like, whatever. However, negotiations go, right? I do think teams want Ryan Rollins, and he's not eligible to be traded actually until today, January 15th, as we talk about things. Do the Bucks even want to entertain that, considering they rarely have 23-year-olds that look like they could be a good player? So what I will say is they have some financial wiggle room. They have about, let's call it $11.5 million. They're under the luxury tax. They're over the cap because of Giannis and Dame and Miles Turner, Kyle Kuzma. But they have this $11.5 million of wiggle room. Doesn't seem like a lot, but if you were to send out a Kuzma or a Portis, you're talking about, and then maybe like a Gary Harris, or if someone will take Torian and waive Torian Prince, etc. Like you're looking at a high level player that could come in. So what's reasonable, feasible? I think that's what John Horst trying to figure out. Like Trae Young was traded. There were no draft picks in that deal to Washington. It was just all money for money. Atlanta was like, I got to get rid of this cash, And
this
so
is a problem I have too. Yes.
Yeah. Like they, and they took an expiring deal on, and CJ McCollum. I think that actually might work out for them. But, the Bucks, I'm sure, are going to say, hey, we can take your cash for some of our cash, and let's go. You know what I mean? But other teams, again, are going to want that draft pick. So I think that's just part of this. I'm sure, John, it takes 2 or 3 or 4 to tango. The Middleton trade was a 4-teamer by the end of it. Those things aren't easy to do. They're not easy to do quietly. And, I'm sure he would love to get something moving to help this team. Like, they're losing games. They're falling further and further out of, finding or getting into the playoffs, let alone the postseason. Right. So JR. So I guess we'll see, waiting to the deadline, probably not ideal. You only got like 20 games left at that point. Yeah, I do think they are poking around. It's just what that looks like and when it's really hard to say.
Shouldn't the Bucks just keep their draft picks starting now, Jim? Like they don't have a pick for the next 5 years. Can they just maybe like think a little about the future? Like is it possible?
Yeah, I mean it's yes and no. Like it's possible in this format we just saw with Trae Young being moved. Maybe they can acquire a certain level of player, not have to trade that pick. And that scenario is still going to play out over the summer. So whatever other $40 million players are not dealt, JR, they're all going to be on the market in the summer. So, like they're going to have that sort of option ability in the summertime as well. A lot of, John Horst did give a lot of these lower level deals player options, but, assuming they're all picked up, some might not be, but assuming they all are, you can move some of those guys out as filler as well. Like you can maybe be like a sign and trade type of guy, or type of team, so yeah, I think you can, the current market may allow for you to not move your picks. However, again, that's sort of an ownership thing. Giannis says he's in, if you want to get another like running mate for the next 4 years, that might have to be included. But I will say this, because I know Bucks fans are already talking about it. This year's draft pick is swapped with New Orleans. The Bucks currently have as better odds or as good of odds to get a top 4 pick in the lottery as they do make it the playoffs. The Pelicans are in the same boat. So even if like the Bucks were to get the number 1 pick, and then the Pelicans were number 4, like the Bucks get a top 4 pick, right? For the first time since Jabari Parker. So if there is a year where if this is so sideways, and they miss the playoffs entirely, like they could get some lottery luck and stumble into a top 4 pick, JR, which would be kind of wild. But that's a little further down the line. But I do know Bucks fans are already thinking about it, talking about it. They can't trade that 26 pick. It's on a swap this summer, so that's not, or this trade deadline, so that's not like in play. So yeah, the other ones going forward, JR. Yeah, I think they want to hold on to it at least to the summer, and then kind of see what the team looks like then.
So to go back to these games, the loss in Denver to the shell of the Denver Nuggets, the loss at home, the lopsided loss to Minneapolis, or to Minnesota rather, against a team that didn't have its best player and its best defender, maybe, depending on, that's probably not true anymore, but Rudy Gobert, another player who wasn't there. What happened, Jim? What, like, for people who have just like maybe checked out on a game by game basis, possibly for their own mental health, their own sanity. What happened here? How did the Bucks how did they lose these games? How are they just not more competitive in these games?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go with what Giannis has said, because it's true. He's not saying anything out of school. They're just not focused enough or play the right style of basketball. Like they're not. They have to move the ball. It can't be dribble. or it's my turn or whatever. And a bunch of guys fall victim to it at times. They are a 3-point shooting team. I can understand, if you're if you want to defend Doc Rivers or defend whatever, there are roster flaws with like the non-Giannis stuff where they lose these leads when he comes off the floor because it's up to Kevin Porter and Ryan Rollins and Bobby Portis to try to like create something inside and kick out. And let's be honest, like Bobby's been better at passing, but he's not the spray it around kind of visionary Giannis is. Porter and Rollins can pass, but that's not their strong suit. Like you literally see them kind of going through these growing pains. And yeah, like Bobby Portis said it like the morning of the Minnesota game, like when asked about, hey, you're playing Denver, everybody was hurt. Minnesota, these guys are out. And Bobby's like, we play down. Like, and I don't know if that's a coaching thing. I don't know if that's just a collective whatever. It's just, yeah, but it's the reasons they lose are the same reasons they win. Like when they win, it looks really good, JR. Like the ball's popping around and they're kind of doing the stuff. And when they lose, they don't do it. And unfortunately, they don't do it too often.
I'm going to ask a rudimentary fan question. How much of that is coaching? Because Doc Rivers is still here. And I know a lot of people are antsy about that. I expressed on the last podcast, I still think he's a professional who has some success. And I think he's a fine head coach. But at some point, like I don't know how much does coaching play into this?
I mean, coaching has to play into it. I mean, what else is he doing there? Right. Like just probably speaking. Look, 2-10 without Giannis is not acceptable. Would we have expected them to go 10-2? No. Closer to 500, probably. Maybe 5-7 would have been okay, And I do think we've seen other teams. Like again, that's the thing. Like, yes, Giannis is awesome, but you can't tell me that the Denver Nuggets group that we saw, Aaron Gordon was out there, but Aaron was not like good. Like that they were better than the Bucks with Giannis, right? Like it's. I mean, clearly they were. They won. But yeah, clearly something. There's some sort of disconnect. And Doc says, "Well, we got to keep finding what to do with things and the non-Giannis minutes," and they clearly haven't. So again, is that the roster is just that bad? Is the roster better, but he's not? They're not pulling it out. It's hard to say because he hasn't been removed. So maybe they feel the roster's bad, but in that case, John Horst was just extended and, now they're just waiting to upgrade the roster. Yeah. It's one of those like chicken and egg type questions, JR, that, I do feel like coaching has been an issue generally. Like Miles Turner, I just go to that. Like he needed to be more involved in that stretch when Giannis was out. He wasn't. Why that happened, why that didn't happen, I don't know. But yeah, it's fair. It's fair to ask. That's all I'll say. Because you would think other teams, like what's going on in Phoenix? Like, why can they win some of these games? What's going on with like the Pelicans can fall into a 5-game win streak. The Kings have won 3 in a row. Like, why can these teams win 3 to 5 in a row? Right. And the Bucks can't. Like that's just there's something there that just doesn't make sense. And is that coaching? Is it just a totally brutally flawed roster? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
I look at the schedule as we record this. The Spurs are on the docket here. The Bucks are in San Antonio. They will play on Thursday night. They probably won't win. Although, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I've seen them beat teams that they probably shouldn't beat. So what do I know? Then they go to Atlanta. That feels like a game they absolutely have to have. And then the Thunder, like you had previously mentioned, at home against Milwaukee. Probably not a team the Bucks are going to be able to beat. But obviously, again, who knows? Then they have a couple games at home that I feel like I feel like that stretch that follows. A couple home games, couple road games, winnable games. I feel like that's do or die. Like they're already at their Alamo. which is a pun I intend to say because they are literally currently in San Antonio. This is, I don't know how, if they continue on this like treading water to slightly sinking trajectory, that they can honestly be like, oh yeah, we should definitely trade for somebody. Why? Like it's kind of, it's not over. That's the problem with the Eastern Conference. It's never really over. Yeah. But at some point you just have to look at yourself and say, this team is not, it's not happening. And avoid committing future assets for a guy who's just going to be like, who's going to board a sinking ship. It's probably too early for that, Jim, but I don't know.
No, I would just say that echoes what Giannis has said and has been saying. Like when he came back on December 27th, he looked ahead to January and that week or 10 days before 2 weeks before the All-Star break is like the do or die period, because there's too few games after the break to really try to make up. Like this is the dog days when teams are feeling it. We're seeing the Knicks lose a bunch. We've seen the Thunder lose a bunch. We see the Cavs lose a bunch. Like this is where if you're at the bottom of maybe some standings or in the middle, you can make hay, right? And the Bucks have not done that. If anything, they've gone backwards. And so, yeah, like the schedule had been favorable, but they lost to Washington again. Like they lost to, they had injury luck and lost to Denver and Minnesota. Like, they've had things break their way in the uncontrollables that they didn't take advantage of. And so, no, you're not wrong. Giannis has said it. It's pretty clear. Like they do need to. Doc is sort of getting there by acknowledging we need to maybe start winning some of these things. So, it's never. You're right. It's never do or die until it's like literally do or die. But yeah, man. Like they've got. Let's count it. Yeah, let's count it 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Let's count this 4-week period before the All-Star break that they've got to be over 500. They got to be. And how it's, that means they're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-1. I mean, that can this team win 12 of 13?
No, they can't.
So it's just, I mean, yeah, we'll just, you're not wrong, and they need to do it soon and quickly here.
Any last thoughts before I send you away, Jim?
No, I mean, we'll just keep an eye on the trade market. We got a tracker up at jsonline.com with not all rumors, because not all rumors are really things, especially with fake memes and prediction accounts and things that aren't real. Yes. So if anything, pin that page so you kind of know you can filter. We try to filter that down for you so you're not out there searching for weird stuff. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think the Giannis stuff will go away until we get through the deadline, just because. He's really frustrated and feeling it. So, I think that's going to be out there to whatever degree it will be. And yeah, just, it's a different thing for the first time in 9 years, JR, but we're here for it. I'm here for it. So, of course, as always, subscribe to jsonline.com.
This is your guy to follow if you care about the plight of the Milwaukee Bucks. Jim Owczarski, Bucks beat reporter for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Thank you for joining me, sir, on this edition of the Point Forward podcast. We'll be back in touch with you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.